again. Well, that's the intro. Owen doesn't bother turning his video off on this podcast when he does it, only when he's on Tom's podcast. Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast, episode 5.24, which is called something like Addition by Subtraction. And we're once again without Andy today. Andy's shaking babies and kissing hands and doing stuff all over Colorado and the mountains with his family. So Owen and I are going to take it away today. Owen, good to see you again.
Cheers for having me back. It's been a tough few days eating all that turkey and stuff. I'm getting more plump as we speak. You know, eventually it's just going to be a mirror image of me and you. I'm getting there with the hair. And
well, we're the two guests we had were carefully selected today because two things we have very little of on this podcast are hair and muscles.
Yeah,
and so today we've invited on the comedy duo of hair and muscles. First, starting with hair because it ain't muscles. Mikey Hers, welcome back to the pod from lovely San Jose, California.
Yes, thanks for having me back on, Mike. Always a pleasure to come on and talk about the Arsenal.
And Kenny Ken, first time you've been with us for a long time, mate. It's good to see you again. Sorry for the delay. Welcome back.
Now, the thing about it, right, is that the reason why I'm wearing a hoodie is because I actually got the hair as well. I haven't cut my hair since March the 10th, which was my daughter's birthday, 2 days before mine. And that's due to COVID-19. So, and I haven't had a shave since then as well. So there is no way that your viewers in the USA or around the world are going to see my hair. Also, I think you've got me out of the shadows because I think you know my controversial views on our manager. So it was a surprise that I was invited on.
Kenny, first of all, you are always welcome here. You are my birthday brother. Yeah. You're my hug. Let me make sure I phrase this. I was gonna say you're my hug mate, but that just sounds absolutely like ridiculous.
Don't worry about it.
This man is the best hugger in the world, especially if you're on the concourse of the Emirates or at the 12 pins. He's great. You and I may not agree on everything, but we have always been respectful to each other, and
that's the best way to be. It's just that we all support the same club. We just don't support. We all it is that we just got different views and different levels of expectation. Not so much expectations, but different levels of patience. You know, some people want it now. You know what I mean? Want success.
But that's what this is all about, though. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to the delay in being invited because of anything having to do with anything other than the fact that we've been trying to branch out and get a wide variety of people in. And so for Mike's birthday, which was 2 days ago on Boxing Day, knowing how much he enjoys interacting with you online, Kenny, and for our birthday, which is the same day in 2.5 months from now, it's a good time to have you back on. That said, repeat after me. We're winning the treble.
Obviously, that goes without saying.
We've won the Champions League, have we not, Kenny? I mean, how could you not think that after Saturday's performance? He texted me after I tweet about this because I tweet something about how do we need perspective or have we won the treble? And in Ken's own wonderful way, he's like, Mike, you have done your research on my feelings about Arteta right now, haven't you? And I'm like, yes, of course I have. I if you've done your research on me, you know that I like to hide when things are going bad, and as soon as anything good happens, I like to just rip my shirt off, and not literally, but
please don't.
Yeah. So
not again.
So you don't have to say that, but it was kind of funny because he's like, "Are you sure this is what you want?"
I think the thing that was right is that there were times when I thought, were Arsenal actually playing Chelsea, or were Arsenal actually playing Arsenal fans who are impatient about our success? I didn't get that impression after the final whistle.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy because sometimes when we turn up, we turn up. It's just that it doesn't happen enough. But we'll get into the Chelsea game in a little bit. Before we get started on that, I did want to give on a very serious note, a massive thank you to everyone who appeared both on and off the scenes for our Christmas Eve tribute to Dave Gooner Faber last week. It was, I mean, that kicked off 3 just wonderful days for me personally. I mean, from starting with that tribute right on through the Chelsea game on Boxing Day, just spent 3 days with my family, with people online, just a lot of positivity and love that came from that. And it was really kind of good for the soul and great to hear good things about Dave. So too many people to name, but thank you for everyone that was a part of that. If you want to see it, you can check out our Twitter account at the Gooners Pod or search our user page for Goonerholic. It was a really, really nice afternoon. Now, if you're here watching this, having just recently learned about our podcast from that, it's a different kind of show.
That's one way to put it.
I like to say that we're versatile because we can be very serious when the situation warrants it, and we can be very not the rest of the time. So, Owen, let's talk about Chelsea, and then we've got some kind of general things that we want to talk about after that. But we might as well dig into this game.
Yeah, I suppose we better cover the sort of positive topic, which has been sort of few and far between over recent weeks. But Kenny, funny, you mentioned there about Mikel Arteta and some of the views that you hold towards him and the opinions you have about the manager. So I think this question is maybe perfect for you. The lineup being released, a couple of surprises on the team sheet, names that haven't really regularly featured at all. But look, there was, I think there was, like everything with Arsenal, there was 2 camps when that team sheet came out. There was a lot of people that turned around and said it was a very brave selection, and there was other people said that he only made those changes because his options were so limited. Which sort of camp do you fall in, and what did you make of that starting 11?
I must admit, before I heard the situation, I already had 11 that included Willian and 11 that included Gabriel as well. So when I saw the team sheet, I thought, I didn't think, before I can actually articulate it, people were, tweeting me going, "Oh, Willian and Louise have been left out of the squad. They've been dropped." And I said, nah, no way have they been dropped, because, when Arteta became the team manager, Willian was a player that Arteta was very much looking to get into the team, especially to the extent that he was offered a 3-year contract. So I was a bit surprised at that. And I see him as that, he likes Willian and David Luiz, because I think they're his sort of trusted lieutenant. So I thought, no way this has happened. It has to be something else. And lo and behold, it was something to do with, illnesses due to, contact with Gabriel due to COVID. But in terms of the lineup itself, once I digested that, I thought, whew, that's a bit brave, Smith Rowe, because I never, thought he'll get into the lineup. I expected Martinelli to be in the side because of his 2 performances against Man City, and obviously he came on previous to that as well. So it didn't really surprise me, but in terms of a big game against Chelsea, I thought, well, it's a big call, it's a massive call, and are Chelsea going to be galvanised by that team sheet, or are they going to be a situation where the kids are going to be overruled? But I think what happened during the game was that the kids thought, you know what, we got no battle scars for what happened previously in terms of, losing against Everton, the Southampton game, which we did. It was, hit and miss. We did well to get back in the game, but previous defeats at the Emirates, they haven't got really scars. And I think with the kids as well is that they don't have agendas. They just want to play football. All they care about is the fact that win, lose or draw, they're in that team sheet. They're starting games, and they're the sort of people, when you're young, you know what it's like. You go to your friends and say, "Did you see me in that match today? We may have lost about 5-1, but did you see that pass I did, that burst of skill?" And they had that kind of enthusiasm, which I think took self-surprise. And I think in terms of Chelsea, I think they were very, very overconfident. That's probably contributed towards their defeat. But that team sheet, let's face it, I've been very critical of Aubameyang, so I wasn't going to lose any sleep for him not playing.
Kenny, do you think he had a calf injury, or do you think this? I mean, Arsenal seem to always have to have an explanation, and it's become hard to know whether they're true or not as to why a player that's normally in the 11 is not. Do you believe that Aubameyang specifically, that his was injury related, or do you think this was a break couched in an injury?
Well, the thing about it is that there has to be a difference in opinion, and it has to be like a strained relationship, because Aubameyang's, in terms of like his position at the state of the football club, is because he was, I don't know, there was a conversation in which he had assurances that better players were going to come to the club, that they're going to build a side around him, although a bit unique, he's 31. So he started the season, everything goes well against Fulham, scores a week before in the community, 2 weeks before in the Community Shield. And then you look at the situation is that he's not getting the service. So the go-to man for him to get service is Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil's been jettisoned from the team. I believe personally, although people might not agree with me, that is purely Arteta's decision on this disciplinary matter, because situations may have occurred, didn't say they did, and may have occurred during COVID-19. So that's that. He's losing that bit of service, and also the way we play, we don't create chances on a regular basis down the flanks. So people have mentioned that maybe Aubameyang should play as centre forward, but you play Aubameyang at centre forward, but you haven't got Mesut Ozil's creativity, and you're not on a regular basis putting crosses in and giving that kind of service. So he's still best position for me is playing down the left hand side, where he can run into the box, arrive late into the box, and that's where he gets the majority of his goals in the last couple of seasons. But yes, there's definitely an issue there between Aubameyang and Arteta, because it could be a situation where he's thinking, well, false promises have been made to me. And then remember, he's good friends with Mesut Ozil. Also, there's a situation where himself and Lacazette have taken Guendouzi under their wing. And that's factual. It's not me making it up. That's just factual. Guendouzi's now on loan to Perth for Berlin. So there's other issues as well regarding the man management within that team. There's a bit of a clique in that team, in which Mesut Ozil was the leader. That's not, again, speculation. That's just factual. So all those issues, getting bad results as well, they are going to have a bearing. And then it's a element of trust. Do you trust your captain? Because you may think, all right, he's my leader, but he's a bad egg and he's undermining me in my dressing room. So your point and your suggestion that maybe Aubameyang was left out for reasons other than the calf injury is valid.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think when you talked about his best position in this system being on the left, I would tend to agree. But I described it on a podcast last night as do you ever see in those old 90s movies when there was a bomb about to go off and the bomb disposal expert would be sitting freaking out trying to pick which wire to cut, and I think Arteta's the bomb disposal expert, and I think the pressure was mounting and he was shit fuck, which one do I pick? And I think he may have fallen upon a formula that might actually work for him in the form of Emile Smith-Rowe on the 10, Bukayo Saka on the right and Gabriel Martinelli on the left. But we'll cover those other two in more detail later. But Hurts, Gabriel Martinelli, a lot of people have talked about him coming back from his injury. We'll have to give him time. It might take him a while to get back in. But this guy seems to have sort of hit the ground running again, and really he seems to, I think, be sort of alleviating some of the pressure from the likes of Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe. I mean, what have you made of his impact upon his return, and what do you think that can do for our season going forward?
It's been amazing, man. One thing about him is he has that South American drive, the ones that when you come from piss poor poverty, you just want it that much more. Like we had it with Alexis. You guys remembered it. And I know Alexis is somebody that splits opinions, but it's a trait that I see with a lot of first generation South American players, that grit, that desire, that hunger. And I will say this is, as funny as it may sound, that I know that Rowe, Martinelli are around the same age, if not the same age. I'm not 100% sure. But Rowe, I still think he needs a little bit of time to develop, to get 90 minutes. I think Martinelli, if you look at his physique, how it's changed throughout the last 8 months or so, I don't think it'd be too much of a load for him to play consistently 90 minutes. And it couldn't have happened at a better time, because I understand that a lot of people might think he's too young, and it's too much for him to deal with right now. But I'm of the belief of, if you got the talent, you could play, and you could look at Saka. He's proven that. Mainsley, if you want to point him out, when he has been able to play, he's performed well. So for me, Martinelli, man, he's a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
The hustle
You got it
that
out.
he has, yeah, I got it out. The hustle that he has is just completely amazing. We've been lacking that amount of energy and that drive. It's like Tierney and him have been playing down that left flank this whole time. He just knew where to be, and you saw a little bit ahead of the game where you saw Pepe maybe lacked a few runs right when you got Tierney there saying, "Hey, dude, run," and he's not hitting those runs. Martinelli just wants it. He just wants to perform, and the fact that when he gets substituted out, he gives Arteta like this wink. Like,
I saw that. I've been holding this in because I saw that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you but that triggered me because I have 17 and 19-year-old kids, and I have seen firsthand in their peer groups, and especially with my 17-year-old son on the football pitch, there are 17-year-olds who are like mentally and emotionally 14. And there are 17-year-olds who are mentally and emotionally 22. Mm-hmm. There are 19-year-olds that are lagging behind. I mean, there are so many different factors into what makes a person good at what they're doing or not quite ready yet. You cannot compare based on age, and you can't even compare just based on talent. This is a recurring theme with me. Martinelli, that wink from Martinelli, and obviously the way he is on the pitch, showed me a guy that's well mature past his years.
100%.
I think I actually
just everything about him is 19 going on 23. Everything. I mean, when I saw Gideon's, I get repetitive sometimes. I think it's maybe been 3 shows since I've said this, but I watched Gideon Zalom play for the U21s when he was, I think, 17 or 18 years old. And I came away from that game. This was when he was playing with Iwobi in the youth team. I came away with that game impressed with Iwobi and convinced that we'd never see Zalom in the first team ever again because he looked like a 14-year-old lost kid out there mentally. He had foot skills. He had good close control. You could see talent, but and that's that may be the difference between Saliba and Martinelli. That may be the difference between Emil Smith-Rowe and a guy like Mainsley and a guy like Willock, who maybe is a little bit behind in that category. And I just cannot stress enough how much I think that has to do with the ability to succeed.
Look at Martinelli. I said when you see him play, his whole demeanor is, I belong here. Mm-hmm. This is where I'm supposed to be. If you look at,
it doesn't look like he's trying out.
If you look at like Willock, right, which I don't want to pick on too much. I don't think he might. I don't think he's going to have a long-term future with us, Joe. But his whole demeanor is kind of like, holy shit, wow, I'm playing right now. That's the vibe I get from him, right?
Me too.
When you come to Martinelli, it's like, no, I belong here. And like you said, that fucking wink, dude. Talk about big D energy right there. It's just like, it's almost like you look at Arteta like, I told you, dude, I'm good. Even after,
but it was respectful in the same manner.
Oh yeah, a little smirk.
It had perfect nuance to it.
A little recognized game action right there. Absolutely.
I watched a podcast, and it's, let me see, just to get, so I can credit this podcast because it's very good. Open Goal. They had a podcast with Jamie Carragher early last week, and I was watching it, and he was talking about, they were going over some of the talents that came in and did well and some that didn't do so well within his time at Liverpool. And he made a statement that he says a lot of the time now there's talk about giving players time to settle in or giving players time to develop, and he says that he doesn't subscribe to that mindset, that he thinks that when you see a player, whether they'll get better with time, he says, but when you see a player play for 1 or 2 games, you should know what his talent level is. And I think that that's the difference with Gabriel Martinelli I don't think there's a question whether this kid's going to exceed. It's just how far he can go, and it's a scary thought. But we're going to have such a hard job keeping a hold of this kid, with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich come sniffing around. For a player of his age to be performing with the maturity that he is, it's just it's scary how high this kid's ceiling could be. But Mike, I'll even come to you with this here one. I don't think it's coincidental that we've seen an increased level of performance from a number of players yesterday, with the inclusion of Emile Smith-Rowe. This is somebody who I've been throwing my hat on for absolute months. When we say that we lack creativity, it's fine to say play Danny Ceballos there or play Willian there, but I believe that attacking midfield, a creative midfielder, much like a striker, is an instinctual position. You need to naturally have that instinct to pick a pass, to know when to pass. And I think that he has all those natural qualities. And it just frustrated me so much that we were trying to fit square pegs into round holes when we had the answer sitting on the bench. And as much as, look, I'll give Arteta credit for including him in this, but it was frustrating for me seeing the amount of praise, and I don't want to sound negative, the amount of praise that he got for featuring Emile Smith-Rowe, when my question was, why hasn't this been done weeks ago? But what did you make of Emile Smith-Rowe's inclusion and his performance? Because to me, over the past few weeks, what we have seen is single barrel weapons in terms of our left wing attacks, our right wing attacks, but he really blended those two together and made it a more fluid system.
Whatever you want to think about Mesut Ozil, he will not step on the pitch for us again. Forget this January re-implementation in this. It's not going to happen. He'll have influence over the club until he is gone and playing for another club. That sucks, but he isn't going to play again. So where are we going to get our creativity from? Where are we going to get and I'm borrowing from analysis I've read. I certainly didn't come up with this myself, but the spatial awareness of getting into empty spaces. I mean, I saw so many still shots after one of those previous games that we played of massive open spaces with nobody running into them, and then a pass backwards. And again, this is the tactical area that I'm not that strong in, but you see when a guy like Smith-Rowe offers something that we haven't had in the squad. Whatever reason he hasn't been in the squad, other than some Europa League games, I think we can look back and say, Arteta needs to learn his lesson based on that. If he doesn't, if we start going back to our lineups from October and November, then, by all means, I don't think he's learned. But, it's not too late. It may be too late to finish the season the way we all thought we would when we started it, but it's not too late to salvage something. If some of these guys who have not stepped a foot wrong are regularly featured, and guys who may be making more money than they are, who have more experience, age, influence in the dressing room, are fine. If you got to call them injured or sick or sore or whatever you have to call them to give them cover, fine. It's the lesser of two evils beyond playing them because you are told you have to.
Yeah.
And Smith-Rowe, for me, when we have 2 games a week and the second game is less important, as starts up again in February, he needs to be playing on the weekends.
Hey, Mike, can I just cut in? Sorry, Owen.
But I hear from you.
But the thing is that you said one of the questions, and that's always been my gripe with Arteta, that you said players that he's been told to do, he's been told to play. Mesut Ozil has been instructed by the board to be left out of the whole team altogether. But after the cup final, Mikel Arteta was promoted from coach to team manager. So in terms of player acquisitions, he's now part of that transfer committee that includes Edu, Vinoy, Per Mertesacker. All 4 of them are now part of that transfer committee where he does have a say in who the acquisitions we bring in. In terms of team selection, the team manager has full control of that as well, and that includes the decision on Mesut Ozil and playing players like Willian and David Luiz. Now, in terms of the Emile Smith-Rowe situation, I could put my house on it that these players will be retained and they will get back in the team, because I think at the moment Mikel Arteta hasn't got the currency, or dare I say, the collateral security of good results. We've been there before in terms of Man United, where tactically we outwitted Man United. Man United played a slow game, and what we did is that we managed to cut out the avenue of supply from Bruno Fernandes and everything. Bruno Fernandes. Once you cut Bruno Fernandes out of the Man United team, that's it. There's no other kind of creativity going out. Another thing is what Man United didn't do as well is that players like Rashford and Greenwood weren't playing the Man United way. They were trying to come for the ball rather than make runs behind our defence. So that played into our hands. Then after the Man United game, boom, bad results. We now have a situation at Chelsea. Chelsea don't play for those second balls. They think they just have to turn up. They only turn up the second half, the game's over. We've been there in this. What's going to happen afterwards? Are we going to produce our performances? Is it a one-off? Our team's going to work out that.
Here's a good question for you, Kenny. Here's a good question for you that this is something that I was thinking of yesterday, and it was that was the Chelsea game, was it a repetition of what we've seen before from Mikel Arteta? Because something that Mikel Arteta has done very well since we've come in is perform well against the top sides. Something that he is naturally very good at, and that in all credit to him, that he does well, is he makes his team resilient and hard to beat. And my only question is, I think there was slight improvements in terms of the fluidity and the way we took our chances and stuff, but are we being fooled by this performance? Because we always struggle against the low block sides.
We'll find out tomorrow, right?
Do you think that this is just sort of classic Arteta of park the bus and hit on the brake?
Well, it's been what the thing is that teams have worked that system out. Now, if you look at Liverpool and Man City, in both the games we played in the league, they sussed us out. Let's talk about the Liverpool game at Anfield. They we took the lead. Lacazette miskicked it. But in terms of like where we were in the game, Liverpool immediately equalised. Then they put the low block on. But what's happened is that they didn't just put the low block on. What they did is that they squeezed in the midfield. They upped the tempo by about 2 gears. You know that Liverpool don't really rely too much on creativity. So what they do is that they win the midfield battle. They beat you up in midfield, and then they rely on Alexander-Arnold on the right-hand side and Robertson, bang, bang, bang. And then what happens is that Mane and Salah go into these sort of spaces because Firmino drags defenders out of position. So Liverpool did that by acting that low block and saying, right, this is how we're going to play Arsenal. We're not going to allow them to play out the back and try to play a little outboard from Aubameyang, because we're going to play that high line and we're going to squeeze your midfield, and that's it. Man City did the same thing to us when we played them at the Etihad. Same thing, low block, squeeze, blah blah. Get Kyle Walker and left back, push right and get Arsenal turned. And then if you look at Arsenal under Arteta, when Bellerin plays inside, run holding plays and the right hand centre half, attack that right hand side, because if you do overloads down that right hand side, you're in and you can win the game against Arsenal. So that kind of happened. That's how Man City kind of susses out. And other teams have copied Man City's approach down our right hand side, plus the low block, and basically squeezing, get your fullbacks pushing, and get Arsenal turned. We struggle against that. And that's how you get past that kind of Arteta's resilient kind of play and trying to sort of play an account around the back. You squeeze, play the high line, but make sure you get them turned. And I think that's what's been happening. And I think I do have concerns. Because you look at Brighton tomorrow, I know we're going to get to that, but Brighton play good football. They don't always take the chances, but there's a lot of pace in the front three. Like if Aaron Connolly plays and you play, and Welbeck plays and you've got Mopé, they love to turn defences.
Yeah, it's written in the stars that Danny Welbeck's going to rip us apart in it. But no, I would tend to agree with you on the majority of that. But one thing that I will admit here is that I think that we were more free-flowing in terms of our attacking football. As I say, I attribute that down to much of the people that we have already covered, Martinelli, Emile Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka. But Hurts, something that
Martinelli,
can.
Can
Oh, yeah.
Martinelli and Aubameyang play on the same side?
I don't know. I'm not sure that's
is
the
it one
type
or
of
the
player
other?
that plays.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. Do you want to know, funnily, who probably the perfect person for Gabriel Martinelli to play with? Olivier Giroud. Somebody of that mold, a hold-up striker.
Well, the one thing about Aubameyang and Martinelli is I believe that the one thing that has kind of took the goals away from Aubameyang is we used to catch teams on the counter, so he had a lot more space ahead of him. So right now, when we're moving the ball from our back line forward, it's like 15, 20 touches before we get there, right? If you notice how we played with Rowe, Martinelli, they just add that fluidity. The ball just naturally transitions to attack way faster. So I think potentially playing Aubameyang down the middle. If you notice that, I think I'm trying to remember some of my other podcast mates mentioned this. We had 15 crosses, I think it was. Way more crosses, low crosses. None of this. Oh, we're expecting like we don't have Giroud, right? So nobody's going for headers. So now you have two things that are going
crosses rather than just the loopy ones.
Yeah. So we got low crosses coming in from our wide wing backs, like Kenny Ken mentioned, right? We got Bellerin and Tierney. And here's the added caveat to that. If you look at Martinelli, where Saka is, our wingers are actually getting into the box. Versus when you have Pepe and Willian, those fuckers, they just stay in the corner and they crowd our wing backs as well. So we got effectively 4 players out wide and just like Lacazette trying to get back into the box or Aubameyang. So I believe here's the thing and this is, if I have one thing, and I'm fairly pro Arteta, and you guys know that, right? But if there's one thing I cannot defend Arteta from is the fact that he continues to start Willian. I don't have that much of an issue with Luis because I don't think our defense is our biggest issue. So that's just putting that aside. Willian, though,
Willian is literally taking either Saka, at this point Martinelli.
Yes.
Smith. I mean, he's taking one or more of those guys who have shown so much more in one game than he has all season out. Maybe later, if we need depth, if there's a run of 3 games in 6 days, maybe you plug him in for a spot start, as we call it. But he can't. I mean, when he's ready to come back, I guess he'll have not played for 3 weeks, 3 games. The festive period, maybe we end up seeing him against West Brom, but like on a regular basis, it can't be. And my pick to play up front with Martinelli on the left and Saka on the right is the 80 million pound superstar hold up number 9, Fuller and Balogun. That's my front 3. And then you can sell them. You can sell them in 2 years for $1 billion and buy like all of the top people on FIFA.
Obviously,
that's Mike's football tactics 101. No,
to be honest with you, you won't get that kind of analysis from anywhere else, nor should you.
To be honest with you, I agree with you, and we'll move on after this because I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. But I agreed with you until I heard what Kevin Campbell had to say, and he's like, "Why should Arsenal commit playing time to a player who isn't willing to commit his future to the club?" He says, "Commit yourself to Arsenal, and then they will commit themselves to you," which I tend to agree with. But
I wish that wasn't happening. I don't want to start looking at Balogun as I looked at Ramsey, which was a different story, but like at some of these other contract wanaways, I don't want that.
It's a 50-50 thing, though, isn't it? It's 50-50 because
we got to show him, and then he's got to show him.
Yeah. But you know the thing with Balogun against that pathway to the team, obviously Mikel can't give him assurances about getting inside, but there's situations where, dare I say, if you look at the Europa League group, it was a very friendly group. We were playing the mighty Molde, the mighty Dundalk, and the mighty Rapid Wien.
Don't you criticise Dundalk, man? Don't you criticise Dundalk?
I know Dundalk very well, but you know what I mean. And there were situations where we were already qualified for the group, where it would be nice if you could just start the guy and see what you could do in a shirt, in an Arsenal shirt, because all we've seen is cameos. Now, a guy's, young players like to see, a pathway to the first team. He's seen Eddie get his pathway. He may feel that he's better than Eddie and Ketia. That's a discussion that you'll have amongst yourselves. But it's a hard one because, a lot of young players nowadays, they're now going to play games in the Bundesliga because there's a pathway to the first team and there's a pathway back into a big club if you excel in the Bundesliga. And I think maybe that's where Fallerine is looking towards.
Yeah, 100%. It's a tricky situation, as you say. It's a 50-50. It's one of those that he's looked so prolific when he has been given the chance.
But you know what other clubs would do is they would tie him down. They would make him a promise while tying him down and say, if we don't hold up our end, we will entertain offers for you. Offers, not, just. I mean, we would have done it earlier than this, but I know it takes two to tango. But like this is the kind of contract management and inexperience in our boardroom and our setup that costs us down the road, because we could have leveraged this talent much differently than we did a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
and we didn't. And it's just this one's gonna kill me if we lose him, because he's on my
your life.
He is my life. He's my savior. He's the man I want to be.
Fuck's sake, Mike. We didn't want to go off on a tangent, right? Anyway, we'll move on. I've been trying to ask Mike Hertz the same question for about 15 minutes. Mike, we've been over these sort of as we said, that maybe this is just a classic Arteta where we park the bus and hit them on the break against the big sides. And to me, which the Brighton game we'll cover on a more detail later, I think that's really going to show us if Arteta has a willingness to change. But something we did see improvements of, as I've mentioned, is the fluidity in the attack and play. And something that came off quite early on in the game through that attack and play was Kieran Tierney going down for the penalty decision. What did you? I know this is a sort of controversial topic now, especially with VAR being there. We heard Gary Neville disagreeing with the penalty, claiming that it was soft. What was your take on the penalty? Do you think somebody as honest and hardy as Kieran Tierney would really dive on us, or do you think that he went down a bit soft?
Look, I think he clipped him in the back of the leg, which could trip anybody up when they're running. I don't think Tierney is the diving type, but here's the thing: is what I used to look at as a handball, or what I used to look at as a penalty, as like people that have been watching football for several years. We got to take that out of our minds now, because now the game has changed with how they're calling these penalties. Now it's literally any contact. Like we've seen some of these handballs. It's just embarrassing that they're giving penalties for them. So this is one of those things where I'm going to say, prior to VAR, I would say that wasn't a penalty. Mm-hmm. But based on new standards that VAR is imposing on fans, I say that was a penalty. I look at things like that. There's like a before and after now, because now with VAR, man, there's plenty of plays where I'm like, oh, fuck off, that wasn't a penalty. But because you slow everything down in slow motion and you're like, well, that's what they refer to as a penalty now. Mm-hmm. I guess it's a penalty.
Do you think that that in a way VAR sort of pussies out of putting any real sort of accountability on themselves for decisions when they have that sort of, it wasn't a clear and obvious error? So it's really sort of being put back onto the referee again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a cop out now at this point. Refs could just blow it and just like, oh, just review it on VAR. So I think the refs' job got significantly easier in that sense. Mike and I have spoken about this before, where I kind of think that if it goes to VAR, it should go to a panel of 3 and let them decide and take it out of the hands of the ref if it is going to go to review. Because there's other things like human beings, right, with their egos that don't want to be wrong. I think who's the Mike Dean, I think it was, right? You saw when he went to review that, and like they overturned it, and you could just see it in his face, like, Okay, fuck, whatever. If that's what you say, because so ego, I mean, it is what it is, right? We're all human beings, so the need to be right, so to say, might be a factor there. But yeah, I'm not a big sucks is a myth. You don't need to remove the guy's ankle to commit a foul. Okay, I get that. No, and Jim, to your point, there was contact, and you at that speed, you can trip somebody up. So I don't think it is. I think another thing that while we're on the subject of diving, I think it's becoming a norm where it's almost like the refs are begging players to do this every time they get touched, and it's fucking embarrassing, right? It ruins the game a little.
If he hadn't gone down from that, if he had somehow kept his balance, absolutely there would not have been a penalty given.
No, but
it's a good chance at a goal, but not a great chance at a goal.
It's the culture of football is absolutely fucked, because even at local level, at low level, I've played in teams before, and I would like to consider myself quite an honest player. I wouldn't go down unless it was taken down, and I've stayed on my feet and not got a pen, and the manager has ripped the shit out of me for doing that and said you have to go down, but you get nothing for being honest, and that's the truth about it. But
what he did, though, let's not forget what he did to get into that position.
Yeah.
Because I mean, first of all, good pass from Xhaka, who we'll talk about in a minute, but his first two touches, one to turn it to goal, and the second little tiny toe poke to get it to where he could speed up and get goal side of the defender. I don't remember who the defender was in that situation.
Reece James. Reece James.
Yeah,
Reece James is why I took him down.
When you get yourself goal side, you're going that fast, and you have options, 3 or 4 different options. Any contact is and should be a penalty at that point.
The thing is, though, Mike,
I forget what the game was where it was like 5 or 6 years ago, but we had that situation, and I think Theo Walcott got beat in that same situation. I don't know why he was in the back or somebody, and we knew he was going to touch him. We knew the guy was going to go down, and it was a penalty. Same thing here.
Yeah, but you know the thing. Sorry, but defenders. I think defenders are idiots. You know the rules. The modern defending right now is that if the guy goes in the box, do not touch, do not make a tackle. Doesn't matter whether you're trying to win the ball or not. If he scores a goal, so be it. If he puts a cross in on the plate for a striker, so be it. You know the rules. I've seen nowadays, a lot of defenders nowadays, when a player goes in the box with nimble feet, they just let him go past.
Well, there was no 50-50 there. He was beaten.
There isn't a 50-50, but you got to realise, Mason Mount did the same thing with, I think it's Murray for their penalty, where Mason Mount's going away from goal, but he's saying to Murray, foul me, please, foul me. We need this goal. Second goal, because we might get a draw here. Murray obliges. Doesn't let them make the tackle. We're winning the game. If Mason Mount wants to get down the line and put a cross in for Abraham, do it. And I think that's the thing with modern defenders. It's not like the 1980s and 1990s where you can make a tackle and there's like a bit of a benefit of doubt. The players now go down. They want the contact. They're even going down. If you know the classic free kick. Say, Owen, you're on the ball, you're protecting the ball, and it's your ball, but we're on the halfway line, and I've tried to do a scissors tackle to get that ball. The minute I do that scissors tackle, you're going to go down. That's a free kick. The same thing with a penalty. Defenders, use your brains. Use that brain you're given. If they're in the box, let them. If they score, trust. If they're going and having a shot, trust your keeper. If they're going to put the cross, trust your defender to clear it. Don't make that decision for the referee. The striker's going to go down.
I think what we've seen there is that Reece James, as good as he is, he's relatively inexperienced, and for the age of Kieran Tierney, he's very experienced, and it was just gamesmanship and craftsmanship, and Reece James fell victim to that. But talking about gamesmanship, Kenny, I'd like to get your take on this, and Mike's going to pull something up here, because somebody who actually had a very good game yesterday, I don't think you can argue that. It was Granit Xhaka scoring a wonderful free kick. But what was more alarming to me was his post-match press conferences. Obviously, a lot of the fan base were sort of sickened at the fact that after he was sent off for that stupid incident against Burnley, he never issued an apology We've seen other members of the squad. Gabriel has come out after he got red carded in a completely different kind of incident, and he apologised for it. And people expect a senior player to take responsibility. But do you think that this interview, and Mike can maybe read through a few of his comments here, but do you think that in a way that after a performance like this, that these comments are just irresponsible and stupid? And in a way, I feel like he was sort of spitting in the fan base's face. There was a lot of arrogance within the comments made. Mike, if you want to rattle through a few of those comments, and then Kenny, you can jump in and respond to them.
Yeah, first of all, this is from Football London. I cut and pasted it because it was just broken up on the. I mean, unfortunately, their website, it makes it very hard to read an article on one page. After the display, I think obviously incredible free kick goal, incredible assist for Tierney to get fouled. He says there's a lot of speaking after the red card. A lot of people started speaking again and again and again. I will always show my character. I was very disappointed about my red card, and I knew what I did wrong for my side, but I'm more than happy I helped the team, and I am back. It wasn't the first time the 28-year-old has spoken out against his detractors. Immediately after the Europa League final defeat, he claimed not to care what the people speak about us on social media before going on in the same interview to criticize those who speak too much. It's just a comparison. And then he says he might want to look at Kieran Tierney, who, by the way, he ushered away from who was it a few games ago?
Alioski for Leeds.
Who at just 23 years of age showed a far better mentality during the Boxing Day victory. It's a start, Tierney said Sky Sports. We needed that today. We needed to give the fans something to be positive about. We've had a few bad results this season, so it's a start. Kenny, your thoughts, and then I'm going to rip him a new a-hole.
All right. The first thing about it is
not you, Kenny. Granted.
I said, in terms of Arsenal fans, Granit Xhaka has always been the ugly duckling. Like, if you look at someone, and I always say this sort of thing, if you look like someone like Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, they're the sort of Pamela Anderson type. And Batman falls in it. The Pamela Anderson, blonde hair, big boobs, small waist, long legs.
This is just revealing how old Kenny Ken and I are a year apart.
But Granit Xhaka has always been like. Granit Xhaka's always been the one with the nice personality, the sort of person that if you turn around, throw the flowers, she catches them. And I think the problem with Granit Xhaka as well, Granit Xhaka has no time for the fan base. He doesn't trust us. He's never forgiven us for two things. One, when he was going through a bad time last season, he was booed off the pitch when he was substituted at the Villa game, which was that. Sheffield United away, the same sort of thing happened.
Well, I think your earphones have come out, Kenny.
This normally rectifies for Kenny pretty quickly, but we can't hear you, mate.
Hello. No, I think you need to put your earphones back in.
Well, I think they're in, but let me take the baton from you for a quick second.
Oh yeah,
much better. Yeah, we lost the last minute of that or so. But go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
We got you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, we took the cap. He blames the fans for taking the captaincy away from him. So he doesn't have no time for us. As far as the fans are concerned, we can all take a running jump. Sorry to say, and that's why Granit Xhaka was always going to make that point towards the fans. So to be honest, I don't really blame him.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to not have a level of sympathy for somebody who has taken the level of abuse that he has. Now, again, for a moment, I'm not assigning blame to anybody for that. He took some ridiculous, unwarranted abuse on Instagram when his kid was born. He's gone through rough patches before. He had a very just a knobbish song that was sung at him, Newcastle away, 3 games into the year a couple years ago. That was the game where he scored a free kick and then immediately said, "Stop talking, everybody." I mean, he has been a flashpoint to this club for whatever reason. The price tag, the fact that he wasn't N'Golo Kante, the whatever it is, he's been given a hard time by a segment of the fan base. That said, for him being the leader that he supposedly is in the dressing room with his players, for Switzerland, for Mönchengladbach, the captain for us, to constantly be that rattled and or predisposed and focused, and to really follow up a very poor run of play with one good game. I have no question Xhaka can play well enough to be an Arsenal player if he's surrounded by the right players and he's in the right frame of mind. I think we have a player there. I don't think he's awful. Is he good enough for us to get to the next level? Probably not. But one good game, or even a couple of good games, and immediately it's about my detractors can fuck off. And I knew that I've got this. It's this confrontational attitude.
Mike, I hear what you're saying, but it was always going to happen. That's the thing with Granit. It was always not.
And I'm sorry, Ken. It's just that
lost what
we're
he's
not
always
hearing
wanted.
you.
Yeah, obviously, that's something that he's always wanted. For quite a while.
Well,
I think the whole captaincy thing, I think the reason he got so much...
That's something he's wanted for a long time.
Yeah, so I totally get what Kenny is saying. I think what happened with him where they put a target on his back is that Unai didn't have the backing of the fans for the most part. Unai then holds a vote and the players vote him, and everybody's up in arms like, well, he's not my fucking captain. Well, fans, with all due respect, you don't get to choose. It's the players. And I just want to throw this out there. Other managers do that. Unai was not the only manager that allowed his players to vote who the captain is. Look, every team has their own different things, right? Milan, the coach picks him. And in Spain, if you're at Real Madrid, he who has most seniority is the captain. It's not a fan vote or anything. So I think people were getting their frustration with Unai persistently playing him. The team was going through a bad patch, and everybody just rejected the concept of him as a captain. And I don't rate him as highly as other people do. That's just football's about opinion, which is fine. But I don't feel the need to completely destroy him based on something his teammates wanted for him. So I think that put an unnecessary target on his back.
He's gotten a raw deal in many ways. I don't question that. I think Mesut Ozil's gotten a raw deal in many ways. That said, I follow Arsenal Football Club, and I don't put a player in front of the club for the reason that I feel like they got a raw deal. I look at how they respond to it. They keep their head down. They work hard, and that's what I care most about. So my desire for Mesut Ozil and Granit Xhaka and a few others right now, including David Luiz and Willian, to get their asses out the door as quickly as possible is not so much based on quality on the pitch, except for maybe Willian. It's more based on just the relationship that the support has with them at this point. It's broken. It's broken from within. And I was happy for Xhaka when he scored that goal. When I saw his attitude and afterwards, and when I saw his comments afterwards, I completely lost my shit.
But
he hasn't learned a goddamn thing. And
It's a case of sometimes as well. I think you have to boil it down to this here. And after that interview, this is when I sort of come up with this here sort of conclusion about Granite Jacket, is that like in all walks of life, and football is no different, you encounter people that are cunts and that are genuinely they're genuinely
that's how this
idiots.
podcast actually got started.
It is, yeah. There was actually going to be called two cunts. No.
Can I don't know what your guys' opinion about this is. This is just me personally. Look, when Pepe fucked up, right? Headbutted this dude, got a red card. Xhaka messed up, got a red card. I forgot who Gabriel messed up, we got a card.
That's different.
It's nice they apologize. Can I just say, me as a fan, I don't expect it. I don't.
No. See,
Forgiveness.
I've seen a lot of people with this stance, Mike. I've seen a lot of people with this stance, and the difference is I don't expect a red card for somebody like Gabriel, because his red card was given for him genuinely trying to make a tackle, an overcommitted tackle, but stupidity in a time of pressure when your manager's under scrutiny and under pressure, and you're under scrutiny and under pressure. To do something so stupid and needless, I think, is deserving of apology.
Jacques has already said my relationship with the fans is shit and it's broken. So Jacques' approach would be, and I think he's confirmed it in his comments, I apologize to the people I need to apologize to. I took responsibility the way I needed to take responsibility to, and it isn't to you guys. It isn't to the press, and it isn't to fans. And, you know, if I was his dad, I'd probably agree with him and say,
you could be. You got around a bit in the 90s, didn't you?
Yeah, but and I did go to Switzerland in 1989 on a ski vacation. So you never know. This could be a thing that grows. But you know, as a supporter of Arsenal Football Club, I don't want to see him anymore. I just don't. And
yeah,
he's on a growing list of people I don't want to see anymore. But
I do think he will be moved out, even for the sake of himself.
I don't see it though, because he's like a Mesut Ozil figure with those people. They love him.
Nah,
I think that's going to break this summer, Mike. I
hope so.
They're inevitably. Look, even in January, if we can't sell them because of all the obvious reasons, they want to stick around. They have big contracts. Everything we've been through already. They're going to be leaving no matter what. Come the summer, there's no saving these players. So I think that's going to dramatically disrupt and change the culture and the dynamic in the dressing room.
I don't think Xhaka will sit on his contract, make money, not play, and then go on a free. Like Ozil, and I don't think that. But he's got 9 lives with this club. I mean, we could have sold him this summer and didn't. And you know, if you're listening to the podcast and wondering why you're not hearing much from Kenny, we're having a little bit of internet issues with Kenny, so we hope things will get sorted before the end of the show. But that's what the 3 of us have taken over.
Yeah, let's jump back into it here, because Mike, as you've mentioned before, you're somebody that has this is Mike Hertz, has given somebody Mikel Arteta a lot of backing. When you look at the fixture list, the results list, do you think that this game has bought Mikel Arteta some much needed time to get to January, or do you feel that these fixtures, following on from the Brighton game, do you think that the possibility of the pressure building to sort of boiling point with Mikel Arteta in terms of his job and his future, do you think that this game was massive for him to win, or do you think that maybe the board had some sympathy for Mikel Arteta and how much of a difficult task that game was going to be?
Yeah, I think they needed to get this win out of the way, man. I think I know this is slightly unpopular to say, but like I think we haven't exactly got the rub of the green this season. And like if we just look like Burnley, right? On a regular season, if we were a little bit more lethal, those first 10-15 minutes we had in the second half, we would have scored. And you know, I remember just tweeting at one point, you got to be fucking kidding me. And then shortly after, you know, red card, and you know, Southampton, we had a different spell. I just believe this could potentially be the start for something good. And I have defended him. But here's my breaking point, so to say, or however you guys want to put this, is the one thing there's no denying is we mentioned the low block and everything. If come tomorrow, Tuesday, we play against Brighton, Rowe plays, Martinelli plays, and they are able to unlock and pick their defense apart, and we win, come Saturday, be it maybe Saturday, William, they're resting Rowe because I understand that maybe physically he can't play 90 minutes. If I see priority on William over Martinelli or Rowe after the Chelsea game and potentially tomorrow's game, that's where I'm kind of like, Arteta, you're not fucking helping yourself, dude. You're not looking at what's going on the pitch, and you're not learning from your own mistakes. And I spoke to you a little earlier about this. I personally believe any manager that would have took the mantle over when Arteta did, it was a shit job to begin with. We have disgruntled players. We have the Ozil situation. We got Saliba situation. We have 5 or 6 players that, let's face it, guys, they're just on I don't give a shit mode anymore. They're getting ready to leave. So they're not gonna be motivated to play for any manager unless the manager's like, hey, let me double your wages and here you go. But they know they have one foot out the door. I personally, and this is pretty controversial for a lot of people, if Arteta, other than being relegated, makes it to the summer, I believe he has earned the right to have a say in that transfer window and to have players that are coming to the club because they want to play for the club, want to play for him. Because as it stands right now, I feel for Arteta on a personal level, like a human level, to be like, hey, go through hell with all this shit players that don't even want to fucking play anymore with no sporting integrity, and then say, okay, out you go, we're going to invest money on somebody else. And somebody I pointed out today earlier that Diego Costa from Atletico Madrid, Tom, in case you watch this, that's the feeder league, he is asking for his contract to be terminated. You know why? Because he wants to fucking play football.
Please don't say you want him at Arsenal, Mike. Please.
No, I'm not saying that. No.
Can you imagine him and Rob Holding in their first training session?
I'm just saying it's admirable that the guy is saying I'm not able to play, even though he loves the club, and he says,
Yes.
just terminate my contract.
Juxtaposing Costa to Socrates, Socrates is a little bit different because he just had a baby.
Ozil, stuff, so and so, right? Plenty of players. So for me, that's having sporting integrity. That's somebody that wants to play. We have, let's face it, guys, we have like 4 or 5 names on our list, on our squad, that they just don't give a damn to that extent. They're happy with the wages. They're looking at it like right now, January, we're going to get a Bosman deal. We're going to get paid out the wazoo. We're going to get a sign-on bonus because we're free, and they're looking at a payday.
And none of those guys are Aaron Ramsey, who, despite being on a Bosman deal in January, will still actually play their hearts out for the club. Are still there. That's one.
100%.
That's one in a generation of guys who get treated kind of like he did, is halfway out the door and still puts in a shift every single time.
And as crazy as this sounds, I will say this because I know that the contract was on the table. Then they changed some management around. And the contract was pulled. I'm gonna say this: I support pulling the contract because I didn't want the club to go down we're gonna throw a shitload of money at a player just to keep him here. Yeah. And so maybe that contract got to that extent where there's like,
why do you sit on a contract that's supposedly been out there for months?
Exactly. Yeah.
With Ramsey now.
That segues lovely into we've 2 more questions left, lads, and the last question is sort of open to everybody because I feel that it'll be a good discussion. And Mike, I know that you want to do something once we're finished here. But Kenny, throwing this here to you,
kicked off of YouTube.
Kenny, January is a notoriously difficult window to navigate. Did we lose Kenny? Is he still with us? Oh, he's still there. It's a notoriously difficult window to navigate.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it's brutal, man. No, no. But how would you approach January? Do you think that the incomings are more important, or do you think it's more getting the sort of dead wood out the door?
Right.
Kenny, we can hear you, but
No.
Kenny,
Got a fucking thing, man.
I think the issue now is you can't
Can't
hear
hear.
us.
Yeah.
All right.
Mike, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. I'll take that one. And I've been doing kind of Twitter polls and threads and stuff because I actually do. I would rather see right now, like to me, performance in the Premier League. When you look at the table this year, when you look at some of the teams that have made it in the top 5 or 6 in the last couple of years, it's less than it ever has been before about individual talent, and more about the character of the players, the way you build an 11 or an 18, the players buying in and playing every single minute, just all in, and a lot of it has to do with staying healthy. I mean, you look at these teams like Southampton and last year Sheffield United. I mean, you look at these teams that play way above their talent level. The way that they stay healthy is just beyond me. I don't understand how that's such a problem for us, but maybe fixture congestion plays, or lack of it for them, plays a part of it. But it's not about the talent anymore, and or not as much about the talent anymore. I don't want to say not about. So to me right now, this club has a problem. We're bloated. We're bloated with the wrong guys who are saying the wrong things behind the scenes, doing the wrong things behind the scenes, who have their mind elsewhere than it is on playing 90 minutes for the club. Hi, Soph. Good to see you. And to me, this situation, I mean, our club isn't going to get fixed in January. It's not going to get fixed to where, we finish 6th, we're in Europa League, we're at least doing what we've done, kind of skating through in the last couple of years to stay in Europe and try to push the next year for Champions League. I don't know that that's going to happen. So if in January you just cancel the contracts you have to cancel, sell the people you can sell, get rid of 6 to 8 people out of this club if you can, and I'll be fine not signing anyone new if we can do that. Would I like 1 or 2 people? Would I like the Buendia or Brandt?
But see, that's a doable thing, even with killing all those deadwood contracts. Buendia is being touted. I'm not sure. I know Tom from the Gooner Talk has a great article out at 101 Great Goals about Buendia, and apparently he's being quoted as 15 million. That's buttons for a club the size of Arsenal for a player of that talent. That's an absolute steal.
We should bring on reinforcements, but like if you put me in this bizarro world where I had to choose between getting rid of 6 to 8 people and signing no one, or getting rid of 2 people, maybe not the 2 that I like having to get rid of a Mainsley and a Bellerin in order to finance Brandt or to finance 2 players. I would absolutely positively in January just get everyone off the books to the extent that we can.
Yeah.
And just go from there. I think that we would rise to the occasion. Depth in injury would be a concern, but I think the replacements for those 6 to 8 people in the 18 every week, and only really 4 of them are in the 18 every week anyway. We're talking about Willian, Louise, Kolasinac, Xhaka at this point. Bellerin's on a slightly different story, but he has value. So, I mean, get rid of those people, bring in the people that are waiting behind them that are already on our squad, then so be it, if I had to make that choice.
Yeah, it's a case as well there, and Sophie from the Highbury squad. Hi, Sophie. She's put in, according to Mikel, he and I do have their plans set for January and the summer transfer market, and I would love to believe that that's the case. Hopefully,
but have they not said that?
No, but the one thing I would say is that we spend so much of our time leaving our business till late. We always see that we always leave our business to the 11th hour when other teams have sort of pre-negotiated deals in place, so that as soon as the transfer window opens, that they just front the cash, sign the paperwork, and get their player. And I would like to see something like that. But yeah, no, in my opinion, I think something like moving those players on and getting a Buendia, or maybe not so much a Brandt, because I think he'll probably cost in around the 35 to 40 million mark. But somebody's doable. But lads, we'll move on to the last question. And Kenny, I know you've been out for the last while, and I'll throw this to everybody, and even I'll chip in on this one as well. But it's, what is your stance on Mikel Arteta now?
You asking me?
Yeah. Don't worry, everybody's going to sort of.
You already told us we're winning the treble. We're going to win the Champions League this season.
I'm sorry. I better answer before the dog starts coming in again. But seriously, he's not the right man for the job. He's out of his depth, and as a consequence, the league form, which is the barometer of any manager's success, is a concern, and a lot of it is down to his poor team selections and the fact that he can't get players, especially the forward players, to gel as a team. So in that respect, results itself are making the situation untenable, because for Mikel Arteta to stay in the job, you're basically writing off a season in terms of you're admitting that you're not going to get in the top four, that you know that you're putting all the eggs into the basket of the FA Cup and probably into the UEFA Cup. Now, unfortunately, in football, we're in a results business, and the most important as well is that there's 25 players and there's only one of Mikel Arteta. If the players that we agree who are not playing for the manager, obviously we're talking about players who are ready to leave the club, but they're still, in my opinion, first team players who, in key positions and key areas, especially maybe the captain, who are not playing for Arteta. I wouldn't put it past them to form a delegation to go to Edu and go to Vinay and maybe to Josh to ask for the manager's removal. Results don't go our way. I don't trust these players. He's made his biggest error of all by not moving these players on, and he's actually put some of these players into senior influential positions within the football club, and that's his biggest mistake. I know in life, keep your enemies close to you, but not in football, you don't.
Yeah. And I suppose what I like to do in this here as well, in the live chat, if you can sort of take part in this, and it isn't I don't like using this sort of Arteta in, Arteta out thing. It's something I don't like doing, because people's views are so much more broad than just a simple 2-word answer. But it really gives us a sort of trend of, where the fan base is sort of sitting at the minute. So if you can stick in whether you're behind Mikel Arteta or you think that maybe an alternative option will be better for the club in the long run, sticking into the chat so we can gauge that reaction. But Hertz, you're someone, I think, with an overly positive outlook, I would say sometimes. Where are you standing?
I feel like we have like the eighth best midfield in the league. I think I would love Leicester City's midfield, Spurs midfield, and so much after. And I think there's missing pieces. There's a few missing pieces in our midfield, and I think that there's a few underperforming stars in our current squad. So because of that, I'm holding my breath to see if we bring in one. I'm hopeful for 2 midfielders in January, and after that, I'll judge what the team does with Arteta. But something Tom Canton brought up during Twitter, so to say, is if you watch the team at versus Chelsea, to me that's not a demeanor of a team that has its back against Arteta. For me, the players played for the manager. Normally, when players want a manager out, it's blatantly obvious. So because of that, I'm pro Arteta still. I still believe that he deserves a little bit of time, at the very least. See if they could bring in that attacking midfielder that everybody kind of knows that we need to gel the team a little bit more, and maybe partner up with a healthy Partey, and we go from there. Because look, we got Partey, he's been injured. Willock, he ain't it. Ceballos has been criminally underperforming based on what he did last season. Then we got Xhaka, which splits opinions. And after that, I mean, for
Smith
a manager
Rowe.
Smith
What
Rowe.
happened to your camera,
well,
Michael?
if you want to play him no, Mike. Look.
By the way,
I love Rowe.
do we get in our contractual 5 mentions of Tom Canton between Mike and Owen?
No, wait, sorry, we're too short. Tom Canton,
Okay,
Canton, Tom.
Yeah, Tom Canton.
That's
There you go. If you
Took you a long time to put that T-shirt on.
yeah,
I'm wearing this for Owen, and no, I don't feel this way actually.
that luscious V-neck of Mike is just.
Here's what I'll do. I'll throw my penny into the mix, and then what I'll do is, Mike, I ran through this little thing with you earlier on Twitter when we were genuinely talking. Jesus Christ, that's a sight I didn't want to see. So here's my opinion, okay? And I've got slightly more positive, okay? I have nothing against Mikel Arteta as a person. I think that he has everything to become a very good coach. I think that this is one of the toughest jobs in world football at the minute, is to fix this club. And I don't think that he has the experience or the authority to act in the way that he needs to act. You know, he's made a lot of heavy-handed decisions against players that he played with. He's went back and forth with his non-negotiables. I know we talk about the attacking midfielder or lack thereof, but Emile Smith-Rowe has been there, and Mesut Ozil, for what anybody wants to say about him, is one of the most creative midfielders in the Premier League's history, and he was been isolated and put out of the squad completely, whether that's his decision or not. But the players that you mentioned there, Mike, Willian, underperforming, consistently played. Dani Ceballos, underperforming, consistently played. Granit Xhaka, the same. Hector Bellerin, the same. Lacazette, Aubameyang. And for me, the Chelsea game, whilst it was fantastic and whilst I'm happy and I think that he did well, for me it was too little too late in a lot of ways. And for me, people are saying there that you made the point of that he hasn't lost the dressing room. To be honest with you, I don't care if they think that he fucking shoots rainbows out of his arsehole. It's what he's getting them to do on the training pitch. It isn't about being likeable, it's about being effective and getting results. It's a numbers game, and I asked the question of, if Arsenal get knocked out of the Europa League by Benfica in the next stage of the Europa League, and they finish the season in 8th or 9th, would you keep Arteta? And to me, that's not an acceptable scenario for a football club like Arsenal, regardless if it's your first season or not. You know, that we should not be performing like that. And Mike, I'll ask you the same questions that I asked Hertz earlier, because here's how I came to my conclusion about Mikel Arteta. So in your opinion, and we'll keep these answers pretty brief, I know, because you want to do something here and I don't want to keep us all night, but just even yes or no answers. Do you think that the Cronkies have invested in this squad?
Do I think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that Edu has made good signings?
I think he's about 50-50 on that.
Okay, so he's made some good,
made some good signings, yeah.
Okay. And at the beginning of this season, what was your prediction for where the team would finish within the league, given the squad after the summer transfer window?
5th.
Okay, so is that realistic now?
No.
So that's it's very, and what I tried to do was try to take my emotion.
It's proven though.
I just tried to take my emotion completely out of it, and that's how I came to the decision that I think that Mikel Arteta is probably the wrong man for the job. It's a bit too soon for him, and in my opinion, people were asking about alternatives. I think we need somebody like a Rafa Benitez. I've said it before. I think we need someone who is authoritative, who will come in, steady the ship, who will demand authority, not only from the players, but from the likes of Edu. And I think that for the Cronkies, who are a franchise that don't really know much about football hands-on, I think that, like, say, for example, Edu wasn't very effective in his job. I think there would be more packed to the punch if Rafa Benitez was to turn around to Josh Kroenke and say, look, I think this guy's making the wrong decisions to benefit the football club, you know, as to where I think Arteta and Edu are very much yes men, and they're just, you know, sort of in synchrony with each other.
I'll give you that. You know, if I woke up on January 3rd and he'd been sacked and Rafa Benitez is brought in to replace him, and I'd look at the next 3 weeks after that and the transfer moves that we make, and the lineup decisions that are made and are completely different. Would I feel that Arteta's been hard done by? No. But I've walked right up to the edge of the cliff, the Arteta out cliff. I've walked, as you know, when I saw the lineup before the Southampton game,
Mm-hmm.
I nearly said the words that I don't even, that I don't like to say about anybody, because it was just this they don't learn. He's not learning. He's not showing any sign of evolution on these topics. I buy. Andy makes fun of me all the time because I buy in on stuff way too easily. I have bought in on this unrest that we keep hearing about from the Telegraph, from Football.London, this Ozil factor, that there are just players who are scheming against leadership because of the Ozil brand and the Ozil, the whole "we are running the show, not you" situation. I believe that there is an element of that going on. Do I think Arteta's lost the dressing room? I think he's lost part of the dressing room. And unfortunately, we now have a divide in the dressing room that the longer it stays in place, it's going to start metastasizing. So I don't actually have to use the C word, but it makes me feel good to hear Tierney talk, to see Gabby's, his relationship with Arteta, summed up in a 2-second wink. It makes me feel good to see some of these things, and more destined than ever, just to see what Arteta possibly can accomplish with all that shit hanging over his head. Was the last 2 months of Project Restart, was that a mirage, or was that some reality? And has the reality just buckled to this player power, this agent power stuff? And so, I've walked my way back off the cliff a little bit, but it's not for lack of seeing what you, Kenny, and what you, Owen, are talking about. No one put Willian in that starting 11 for 2 straight months, every single Premier League game, other than Arteta. And so it's one of these things where I'm like, I want to help you, man. I want to be in your corner. I want you to succeed. You're making it really damn hard for me. And so, does one win against Chelsea turn all that around? No. Mm-hmm. But hopefully it showed him something. Mm-hmm. And we will find out in the next 4 weeks, as far as I'm concerned, whether he learned from that or not. Definitely. He's got to quell this rebellion, though. He has got to quell this rebellion.
He needs to be heavy. He needs to be heavy-handed in the right places. And as you said, the things that he's seen against Chelsea, we need to see that against Brighton. Obviously, there's going to be rotation issues, but really
have been against Guendouzi and Mainsley and the wrong people, and the heavy hands need to be on the right people.
Oh, yeah, I like heavy hand. Anyway, enough about my sex life. Mike, you want to do something? I'm not sure, boys, if you are okay to stick about for a minute or whether you need to.
Well, this came from me, like, a lot of people have been saying this season, like we just, when they're talking about the Cronkies and they're talking about Edu and they're talking about Arteta, it's our squad is not good enough. We have we don't have a 15th place squad. They're playing like it, but we have like a 9th or 10th place squad right now, and we need to make 8 improvements. And I just don't buy into that. And so I started looking at the squads that we have, and I am convinced that our squad, if they were all in harmony, healthy, and playing the way they're capable of, and I'm not saying playing the way they did 2 years ago. Otherwise, 3 years ago, I might have a Mesut Ozil in that squad. But if that'll make somebody happy, right, Ken? As long as he brings tapas with him. I'm looking at the squad as I would like to see it, and I think there's 3, maybe 4 squads that have a better actual talent level than we do, which goes to my point of why are Leicester, Villa, Southampton, why are they all in front of us? It's not because of squad. It's not because of talent.
It's a bigger list than that, Mike. We're 15th.
Well, no, but I think there's I think harmony has a big. And here's the thing, right? You mentioned Mike about, and mind you guys, I rate Benitez. just for the record. Okay, let's just say this is the club's decision not to play Ozil anymore. Be it they're saving money. That's the rumor, right? That he's not playing. They save a boatload of money. All you have to do to get half the locker room against you is come in January and not play Ozil. If you don't register him and play him, you're automatically screwed with like 6 or 7 of those players.
That's why those guys got to leave in January.
Well, that's my whole point. Like, listen, I 100% agree with a lot of the points that Kenny, Owen, and Mike, you guys all push forward. Arteta's not perfect. The job can be too big for him. Yada yada yada. All those very valid points. The fact that he continues to play William, I cannot defend that. But any manager that comes in is going to face the same BS. It's not. I don't care if it's Zidane, Pep Guardiola. If Ozil doesn't want to leave and the new manager does not immediately play Ozil or register him, he's already at a loss. It's already an uphill battle, no matter what. So this shit is not going to get fixed in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion, until Ozil leaves this team. That's my honest opinion on that.
Yeah. Where did Mike go?
I'm having all sorts of issues now. All of a sudden, this is the technically incredible podcast that we run here. I'm trying to get my screen shared because there's a few teams specifically where it's been talked about. So here's a comparison of and I'm using some subjectivity here, but this is Arsenal's probably top. I left goaltenders out of the equation. This is Arsenal and Everton's squad right now. If it was 2 center backs, 2 full backs, 3 midfielders of various types, and 3 attacking players. On the top is what Transfer Market shows the entirety of the squad current value being, not what they cost, but their current value if they were to be in the transfer market. So this should show whether we have better players or not. And this is the points per game that we have right now before today's game. So Everton performing at a level that, and this goes to the narrative that maybe Ancelotti's a better coach than Arteta, maybe something I've fought against for a long time. But are their center backs better or are ours?
Let's go through one apiece. So, Kenny, if you're back in the room, you can jump in on this as well. Gabriel against Michael Keane. To me, there's only one winner there.
I look at these two together. I mean, you almost just kind of have to look at the center back. And if you don't think Luiz would be the guy, and if you think Holden would be the guy, or Mari would be the guy, just are our center backs better than theirs, or there's better? I mean, better players, not in better form, but better players individually.
Yeah, pedigree. You're talking about the pedigree of the team.
Well, not even the pedigree. Well, performance, not I mean, because pedigree, you could say James' pedigree is incredible, but I mean, his form even in the last year or two isn't what it was when he was 5 years ago. I don't think. Mm-hmm. So, Kenny, who's go center backs and fullbacks? Which back four would you rather have between these two in an ideal situation?
Oh, Kenny's muted.
No. Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at both the teams. Well, you could say that same as Coleman, great defender, international defender for the Republic. I look at him at right back. He's probably one of the best right backs in the league for me. And then you look at Michael Keane, England international, Mina, experience with Colombia in the World Cup, got that goal against England 3 years ago. You got Digne as well.
He's quality, but I wouldn't take him over Tierney though. I mean, are they quality because they're in good form, or are they quality because that's the tough question?
You know my thing about Arsenal players, and I say it's with greatest respect to everyone in the panel. The problem with Arsenal players is that whenever they come to the football club, they regress. Now there has to be a reason why they regress. It's because we have a culture where if you just get by and you set your standards really low and you go above that, you've got a very good career at the football club. And there's no accident. Players that come to our football club, they've declined. And we talk about the Chelsea players, Willian, David Luiz, Petr Cech, William Gallas. Now, they've come from centres of excellence where winning's the alpha and the omega. They have come to Arsenal where they've lowered the standards and they've settled into these bad habits. Hence the fact we're not seeing the best of them. Now, that could be because they're no longer hungry or it's the culture they're settled into. I worry about Kieran Tierney and about his development in his current culture, for me.
I think he's got enough character to rise above that situation. I mean, I don't disagree with you that that's happened. We used to see it all the time. Players would start off and we'd be like, wow, these guys, are incredible. What a steal we got on Rob Holding. Well,
But it's in the instance of Kieran Tierney there, who I think you were talking about signings regress, and I don't think Kieran Tierney has taken a backward step at all. I think what you're saying is there's much more of a reliance on him at Arsenal. He's the shining light of the fan base, and he, as a person, you can tell is probably one of the people that takes the weight of that on his shoulders and tries to provide much more than he normally does, and than he did at Celtic. So I think you're seeing Kieran Tierney take much more risks than he normally would take because he's trying to dig his manager and his teammates out of a hole a lot of the times. So I think when we talk about like wasted crosses or excessive cross numbers, I think that there's a reason behind that. But he's one of the few I said hasn't regressed.
No, I don't think he has, and we probably shouldn't break these down in such intricacy, but the issue here is they're performing almost twice as well as we are from a point standpoint, and I think you could make arguments not in the midfield area. I will tell you that the midfield area we have one guy who would make the combined 11 if you wanted to look at it from this standpoint, but roll the clock back 4 or 5 months, and our attack is just, if we had a healthy Martinelli, if Aubameyang was in the form he was prior to the contract, there's a lot of ifs in this, but we know what Saka is. My point is that the form is temporary, class is permanent, but the form is the problem. The mentality around the club is the problem. You could say the coaching is the problem, but these teams are going to come down to earth. And I think we're not that far away from having a better chance. Or one of the teams that we've always had to hear has just zoomed past us in recent years is Leicester. They're certainly performing like it this season, and they have always performed under Brendan Rodgers because he's the perfect coach for a team like that to punch above their weight. Not so much for a team that's a monster like Liverpool, and like I don't know that he'd be as successful long term at Arsenal, but everywhere along the way, again, possibly other than midfield, I think we've got better players. I think we have better skilled players than they do, but there's a reason they're performing better than we are, and it's. I mean, these teams, Leicester City, Villa right now. I mean, how is Villa in the top 4 right now with this squad? They have one exceptional player.
I know this might seem like I'm just grasping at straws, but we haven't had Partey for like a month. Martinelli's literally has played his very first game with us.
And that's kind of my point is that we're so much below these teams for a lot. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but they haven't had the kind of. I mean, I looked through these players last night, and I was looking at the kind of minutes they had logged, and most of these teams have had somewhere between 1,200 and 1,300 minutes overall, and so many of these players that we're going through, these defenders, the fullbacks, some of the midfielders are somewhere between 1,100 and 1,300 minutes. They just have not had to rotate and deal with this. So, is this positive Mike now claiming that all of our problems are due to bad luck and injuries? No, I'm claiming that they're due to referees. No.
No, well, I mean, it's very difficult because if you take into account cards, injuries, and the fact that we play in Europa, I do think that there's other factors than just looking at this. I'm not saying that the team hasn't underperformed in a lot of ways. They have. But I think there's things that the fact that instead of playing every Thursday, they were literally having a full 7 days off. Little things like that, I think, and be it through injury or suspension, we ended up having to play some of our, let's call them the league starters in the Europa League. Now, some of them, as Kenny mentioned earlier, I mean, we talked about the mighty Dundalk. He could have played Balogun, right? Or Balogun de Oro, I believe is his name for you, Mike. He could have played them, right?
No, it's Ballon de Gun.
Ballon de Gun. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, it's a difficult one, man. I don't know, dude.
I don't know.
I
spent way too much.
foolishly optimistic, I guess.
I spent way too much time at 3:30 in the morning last night putting this together, and at the end of it, I'm like, what did I actually learn from this?
Which is nothing.
It's general. I don't learn very many things from very many things that I do, but the point is that there are I guess if I had to title this, it would be "Talent Ain't Everything," because
sorry, Mike. Sorry to cut in. Because I but the thing about it, right, is that you're talking about talent, and we have the players. My biggest concern is because of our decline, it's the calibre. Because you talked about Thomas Partey. Is he as good as Ndidi?
Oh yeah, better.
He is.
Ndidi? All right.
Look at the last 3 months of form. Maybe not, but is he as good as Ndidi? Yeah, I'd say.
All right.
I'd say
every month of form. He's only played like twice.
Because I've been dying. This next thing that I need to ask you as well. We agree that the players that we think that have got semblance of quality, Partey, Tierney, Saka, Martinelli, those all players, are they the top level players? Will those players get into the top any of the top 6 sides? But
here's what I would say. Okay,
I would.
I think Gabriel Partey.
Here's the argument that I would put forward to this, and I'm not sure whether, Mike, that you have Liverpool here. Do you?
I don't, because there's absolutely no question they have more.
Right. But here's what I would say.
Same with City and same with actually Chelsea.
Take it back to last season. All right. I think that when you look at Liverpool, you look at their players, the likes of Andy Robertson, the likes of Joel Matip, Gini Wijnaldum, Henderson, Mane, Salah, Firmino. I think that these players are made better than their manager. I think before the arrival of Jurgen Klopp, if you were to look at any of these players, you would not consider very many of them top-class players, even with Virgil van Dijk. I think that when you look at these sort of infamous massive names, it's because they've been elevated by what their manager has done with them. I'm sure that if Mohamed Salah went and moved to Arsenal, or he moved to Man United, or he moved to City, whoever it is, that you would see a decline within his performances, because I think that Jurgen Klopp, I'm probably a bad example because I consider him probably the best manager in the world, and I think that if he took some of these players, he would make them world class. I think that it's just that you look at who's the prime example, Nicola Pepe. Obviously, that guy has talent in abundance. He's got bags of talent, but it's that Mikel Arteta isn't applying the right tactics for that man to play to his strengths. And when we look at Aubameyang, playing him on the left, when you have like we've mentioned before, Emile Smith-Rowe, a natural creative player there, depriving a player like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of balls between the lines, that he's not getting the best out of the types of players that we have. Again, Kieran Tierney playing left centre back, completely stripping him of his most natural talents, which we've seen is getting down the line, beating men and putting balls into the box. And that's my problem with Mikel Arteta. And when we compare teams, it isn't that when we look at somebody like, let's say, let me try and get a couple here, like let's see, Saka and Albrighton, okay? There's nobody going to tell me that Albrighton is better than Saka, but he might outperform him statistically because of the way that this system is set up, that these players are being starved of freedom. And I think that, in fairness, Mikel Arteta has taken the handbrake off slightly in recent weeks, but still, for me, he's too inexperienced. And I think what is wrong with Mikel Arteta is that he came in, and the obvious job that he had on his hands that everybody would agree on is that we were defensively weak, and he shored us up and made us defensively strong, and that worked for him at the start. but I think that he's stuck in that rut now, and he's reluctant to let the handbrake off because he's aware of the damage that can be done. And yeah, so no, for me, when we talk about, I actually think people say that we big a lot of our players up. I think that we put a lot of them down when we put comparisons. Like Gabriel and Fofana, get the fuck out of here if you think Fofana is better than him. James Justin and Kieran Tierney, not a chance. Thomas Partey and Didi Partey is levels above. I think that naturally Danny Ceballos is up in and around where James Maddison is. You know, it's just I don't
know about, but I mean, Smith Rowe could be, but like we just haven't seen enough. But yeah, I mean, I think Leicester and Everton are probably the best two examples because those two teams are actually good. West Ham, Villa, who else? Wolves actually good, but look at this lineup. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're doing it with solidity. They're doing it with incredible buy-in from their players on their coach's system. And they're doing it by for the most part staying healthy, other than of course Raul Jimenez, which was of course our fault. Can
I say one thing too? Is all these teams that you're talking about, you know, Leicester, very long-term project. Klopp, if you guys remember when he came in, he finished 6th. Again,
not 15th.
So. Well, we're not 15th yet, man. We're 12. We're 15 games into. I just looked at the table and I know this again. I know this sounds like
Chelsea finished 15th or 14th or no, they were 17th.
Let's just I'm gonna do something silly. I'm gonna assume we're gonna win tomorrow. I know, silly. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. We finished. Okay, we win tomorrow. We finished with 20 points. Chelsea has 26 points. Mm-hmm. Look at who they bought and the money they invested. And I'm supposed to look at Chelsea and say they're having a wonderful season compared to us? I mean, shit, nobody Hazard, Werner.
They're underperforming because of their manager.
When I looked at their 11, I looked at their 10. I looked at the 10 and we probably outclassed them at the back. But the talent that they have up front is just insane. But that's kind of it's kind of also my point is that Chelsea's one of 3 or 4 teams, and I did Spurs on here. Chelsea's one of 3 or 4 teams that I thought I did. Yeah, I did. Chelsea's one of 3 or 4 teams that I didn't even bother doing because I think the individual talent is better. But they're the ones that are not necessarily translating that into play on the pitch. But you know the players in green are players that I absolutely think get into other top 6 teams. Absolutely, without a doubt. The yellow is just because we haven't seen enough of Martinelli yet.
Mike, in terms of your comparisons to Spurs, obviously, we're probably going to agree to disagree, probably everyone on this panel. But if you look at development and kind of the players that Spurs have had since probably, let's say, 2016, 2017, in terms of their development, they're a better team than us. They've been playing in bigger games than our players. And I look at our players, and obviously you talk about the quality and the quality they have. But sometimes I look at it, is that quality you're talking about on paper?
Well, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm introducing this knowing full well that it's not so much. I mean, my point is that we have quality. They're not playing like their quality. I don't think it's on paper in the sense that they're not actually that good. I think it's on paper in the sense that they're not playing nearly as well as they could be playing, and perhaps some of these other players on these other teams, like Højbjerg and Sissoko, are playing much better than they are because of their coaching, their health, their team concept that they're all on the same page about. Spurs are different than some of these other teams in that they have 2 players who are just miles ahead of anyone that we have. And as much as I hate to say that, and they're also cunts, but I mean, their team is more valuable than ours and they should be performing better than ours. But yeah, I mean, it is on paper, but it's also something to me to say that if we get rid of the shit that's holding us back, I think these players will rise to the top. And when half of our starting 10, if not slightly more, field players in a most optimal of situations, 5.5 here, I think could play on other top 6 teams. I don't think talent is the issue. I think we need to surround them with more talent. We need to get the right chemistry together, and that's on Arteta now over the next few months, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's a lack of balance. That's
Total lack of. I mean, everything. The individual players are not the problem. Saying the squad sucks, and we have a bunch of players who are not good enough. We do have players that are not good enough, but they're not overrunning our options. They're just either not healthy or they're way out of form, like Aubameyang. I mean, don't tell me Aubameyang wouldn't start on the front line of 18 other Premier League teams, 17 other Premier League teams. You could say that right now because of the form that he's in, which we think has more to do with things other than his talent than his talent. But I mean, we have players we need to add to. I don't think we need to blow the entire thing up. I think we just need to, for repetitive sake, blow up the part that's holding us back.
I think what Mike's trying to say is don't blow your wad. Just hang in for a little while extra.
Well, it feels better when you ultimately do.
Yeah,
right.
It does for sure.
All right, enough preaching for me. We're running up close on 2 hours. We have Kenny both audio and video right now, so I'm just going to say, Kenny, how good it's been to chat with you again. One of these days we will reunite once again.
Well, you got to get tickets to a match, mate.
What? I was at the last match that I could have possibly gone to, which was West Ham.
And you're bad luck because the last match you went to, that was the last match we had at the Emirates. We got a pandemic after you came to the Emirates. It's just a fact. It's not. You didn't cause a pandemic, but it's just factual. The last game you were at, we had a worldwide pandemic. I'm not saying you're to blame for it. Well, I am.
I am.
But you're not. You're also not saying that I didn't cause it. So
you caused COVID-19. You caused.
I did.
I'm blaming you.
And they named COVID-19 out of the fact that when that I'm 19 stone plus another 200 pounds. I was actually trying to do the calculation in my head.
No, it's not. No, you caused COVID-19. You came all by yourself on that plane from Virginia via Heathrow Airport, and you came to the stadium. We're all okay, and then you came. You hugged me, and you hugged Andy, and you hugged everyone else. I went and sat next to the lady next to me, and then before you knew it, Arsenal was closed down. It was all down.
So Wuhan was a smokescreen.
No, it was Mike Feinberg who caused it all.
Yeah, no, I can't deny that. I was in Mikel Arteta. Well, no, that was a few days after the game. I was in Mikel Arteta's office.
No, you got a selfie of him when he went to beg for a selfie in his car.
He wasn't there. I was in his office, but he was nowhere to be seen. It was
and he cleaned the office afterwards, obviously.
No, I left it very dirty, actually. Very dirty. All right. Mike, always good. Oh, Kenny, where can we find you? What's your birthday?
Kenny72 on Twitter. I come up with a lot of conspiracy theories about dressing room unrest, and I still think that Mikel Arteta got rid of Ozil for disciplinary problems. I still believe that it was him, not the board. Sorry.
Well, whatever it is, he's not gone enough in my terms. But it's been a pleasure. Give my best to the family, and
I will. I'm gonna have to leave you because the dog's chewing at my leg, and he thinks it's a bone.
It's well.
My wife's doing the same.
Cheers, Kenny.
Okay, see you later.
Later, Kenny. Bye, man.
Bye.
So now that he's gone, Mike, how was that for you?
Oh my God, I spoke to Kenny Cat.
He's such a fucking fanboy.
Dude, I love that dude, man.
He said the same thing about me after we met in New Orleans. He's like,
I'm full of love.
Didn't,
man.
which actually disappoints me.
I could definitely tell you on a scale between love and hate, I love a lot more people than I hate. I try to Look, man, I got along with Owen. I mean, shit. If I get along with him,
I know we're
I
like
get along
polar
with anybody.
opposites. You have a fine hairline and you're very positive, whereas I'm going bald and I'm an absolute miserable cunt.
See, maybe there's
Damn.
something to being positive there. See,
The only
Stressful
thing,
life.
Mike, the only thing Mike and I have ever fought over, I think, is
Jazz.
Becca.
Yeah. Oh, that too.
Becca and Jazz. Those are the only two things. So, no, I love you, man. It's good to see you. Tell us about your podcast. When are you podcasting next? And
yeah,
did
unfortunately,
my last appearance
scheduling-
get you kicked off of YouTube? Or what?
Yeah, not yet. No, we never were able to upload on Pornhub. Unfortunately, that was a you thing, Mike. Yeah, missed the boat on that one. It's not another Arsenal podcast on YouTube and Instagram, and we will be putting out another podcast tomorrow night, actually, to talk about both the Chelsea and the Brighton game. Unfortunately, our schedules didn't allow us to record this past weekend, so yeah, Tuesday we'll be talking about both. Hopefully, another positive.
Well, thank you to you, Mike, to Julian, to Boyce in the chat, to Jim, stuck through most of the show with us. Soph had a visit. Danny had a visit. The real Giannis. Some guy named the Gooners Pod, Mike Hers, Renat, Sherwin, Mark Mertz from Green Bay was in the hizzle. Sorry we didn't get to your question. We just ran long. The Mask Gunner, always a good supporter of us. Saw Sam Rule in here earlier today. That's a name I recognize from the American Arsenal Supporter Club, and a handful of others. Thank you for joining us live. Owen, is this a thing now, or are we going to get Andy back at some point?
No, he's done, man. He's out of here. 3 strikes are out. He's missed too many shows.
Is he is he getting other podcasters to try to like undermine our performance? Because I've been off lately, and I think it's because he's like pulling strings behind the scene and trying to get like other senior podcasters to.
Mike's gonna be like Arteta. Every time Andy's not there, every time Andy's like, "Oh, it's a calf issue. Lower back. Yeah, the quarantine.
Lower back, mountain house, skiing. All these things. He's got 10 pictures of himself skiing that he just throws out every few months so that it looks like he's always doing
something. Yeah.
Middle of July. Look for him.
We're a strange duo. I'll say that. It's a bit of it's weird the way people come together.
No,
not like that. Not like that. Synchronous.
We always try to time it.
We don't ring each other and be like, "Are you ready?" The time difference is conflicted. No, but you can find me on Twitter. I actually changed my Twitter handle because I looked like one of them.
You did, didn't you?
I did, yeah, because I looked like a 5-year-old with like Owen Young 2, or that I did something really bad on my first one or something. So yeah, no, you can find me Owen Young AFC on Twitter. I do have a channel, but I'm not doing anything on it. I couldn't be arsed, I'll be honest. It's just like, fuck this.
When we get relegated next year, you're gonna have to change the last 3 letters of that to whatever new team we adopt.
Yeah. Or if you fucking Americans have your own way, it will be like Super Fire Cannons AFC or some shit. So
all right, well, if you haven't left already, you should right now because we're going off the air. Cheers. We'll talk after tomorrow's game, and come on, you Gunners.